coming on the air tonight with 150 million people in the path of danger with major storms gaining intensity as we speak. We're talking fast-moving fires, hurricane-force winds in Texas, already flipping over semi-trucks on the highways, a huge tornado risk in Mississippi, Alabama. Experts now warning this could be an exceptionally dangerous, even life-threatening event. We've got team coverage for you. And the rally-like speech in the last hour from the president at the DOJ as a race against time plays out right this minute on Capitol Hill to stop a government shutdown. We are live in Washington with the very latest there. Plus, the exclusive new information we're just getting in. One of the last people to see the college student disappearing in the Dominican Republic. What he's telling officials tonight about how he tried to save her. The countdown is on for the Take-Two attempt to swap out the astronauts in space for months with a new crew. Is tonight the night? The big question. We are live at the launch pad later on in the show. Hey, everybody, I'm Yasmin in for Hallie tonight. And right now we are starting in the south where out-of-control fires, mostly from out-of-control winds, they're raging in Texas. Take a look at how strong these winds are, literally flipping this semi-truck over. Imagine the winds that need to be, the mile per hour that needs to be happening there for that truck actually to flip over there. Blowing up so much dust, it's almost impossible to see through that haze. Thousands have already lost power. And check out this forest fire in North Texas, already burning through thousands of acres. Unbelievable to see. And then forcing folks to evacuate. Our climate team tells us the last time northern Texas was under a fire risk like this, it was actually back in 2009. Other states like Missouri, Oklahoma, they're also facing possible big fires as well. It's all part of this monster storm heading east with over 100 million people that are in the path this weekend. We are seeing winds up to 80 miles an hour, baseball-sized hail, and the threat of tornadoes. 40% of the country is in the eye of this thing. Our team is all over this. We've got meteorologist Bill Cairns, who's standing by for us. Up first, though, we want to go to Adrian Broadus, who's standing by for us as well. We're hearing those wildfires and the super kind of deadly nocturnal tornadoes. They may strike Missouri tonight. What's it looking like there right now?
Right now, it is the calm before the storm, and I know that is an overused phrase, but behind me, you'll notice clear skies, it's warm. Winds have been gusting throughout the day, but it is going to shift here, as you mentioned. Here in St. Louis, it's part of this big storm system that is impacting millions. A meteorologist with the National Weather Service here in St. Louis said, and I want to read this to you, today may end up as one of the more political, severe weather outbreaks in recent memory. And the biggest concern is that these storms will roll in overnight. So we're talking about when people are sleeping. Here's the warning this afternoon from a commissioner with the city here in St. Louis.
We've been in the red zone since yesterday. You know, it's not often that we find ourselves at this level of risk. So I think that it's really important that people pay extra attention to that. We're used to having marginal risk, and we're definitely in a higher risk level with this particular storm system.
This storm could be significant. That was Sarah Russell. She's a commissioner of emergency management for the city of St. Louis. The thing for people tonight in this area, make sure your devices are charged. Make sure you have a weather radio. And if you've turned those alerts off on your cell phone device, turn them back on. So if something happens overnight, which they are saying it will, you will have all the information that you need. Yasmin.
Adrian brought us for us. Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate it. I want to go to Bill Cairns now, who's standing by. And by the way, striking overnight is literally the worst possible news for residents in some of those areas, right? Because that is when they are caught off guard, when they're sleeping. For instance, if you see 80 mile, 90 mile, 100 mile an hour winds hitting your home, what happens then? So walk us through kind of what your expectations are on these major storms right now, Bill.
Yeah, so there's two things going on. One right now is that we have this epic historic dust storm that's going through Texas and Oklahoma. Visibility is as low as I've ever seen. It's as huge as I've ever seen. And there's accidents all over the place, you know, from people stopping on the highways, from the tractor trailers being flipped over. So that's one story. The other story is we got the intense winds blowing at least a dozen brush fires through portions of Texas and Oklahoma, numerous evacuations. And now we're just starting the severe weather portion to this. And this is where we think the most damage is going to be caused, especially from tornadoes late tonight and then right during the day tomorrow. So this is the first kind of area of concern. This is Interstate 44 as it snakes its way down here through southwestern portions of Missouri. And you notice we're starting to see some of these storms really starting to intensify. You start to notice more of the pinks. These are severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued. No tornado warnings yet, but we think about an hour or two as these storms continue to get stronger and they head a little more east and a little environment a little more conductive, they'll start to spin, and that's when we'll get the tornadoes. So considerable threat, even with these severe thunderstorms, winds up to 70 miles per hour. And then, on top of that, we'll have tornadoes to worry about. So here's the area at risk. As we watch the sunset today, this will continue well to the overnight. This is a huge, what we call moderate risk, this area of red. I saw one report, it's the largest since 2011. So usually the way the colors work is the more widespread the severe weather will be if you're in the higher categories. So this is what we call a moderate risk of severe weather from central Mississippi all the way northwards. And this will continue. It's not like it's going to end. Tomorrow, this will just roll down into areas of the south. And notice we were the highest was a red. This is the pink. This is the top of the scale. We call this a high risk of severe weather. It's guaranteed that we're going to have severe weather in this, life-threatening storms, and not just tornadoes, but maybe strong, long-track tornadoes. Those are by far always the most deadly. Those are the ones that can take out complete towns and communities. And, the last two times that we had a setup like this, we had about 99 and 115 tornadoes. So that's what we're staring at in the next 24 to 36 hours is likely dozens of tornadoes, with a few of them being very exceptionally strong. And here's that air risk for the anywhere with the hash lines. That's where we have the chance for those really strong tornadoes tomorrow. So Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, portions even to Georgia.
And look, we talked about this, right? I think one of the big risks here as well, when you have this dry weather combined with these super high winds, is those wildfire risks, which have major potential, obviously, in states like Texas, Missouri as well. How bad could things get there?
I mean, it's scary because these fires are out of control right now. I mean, they can't contain them. This is the fire risk map for the rest of this afternoon into tonight. And the critical's in red and the extreme risk, which was the highest, level for danger for fire, that's in the pink. And that's from southern Kansas all the way through Oklahoma City to Tulsa. I know in that area between Oklahoma City, Norman, back up through Tulsa, there's at least 12 different fires that are burning right now. There's evacuations. Winds are gusting to 60 miles per hour. You can't fight off a grass fire in conditions like that. And, we've already seen winds gusting up to 86 miles per hour in some cases. Here's our current winds. It's still 47 in Lubbock. I've seen pictures of roof damage in Amarillo just from the winds alone. It has nothing to do with severe thunderstorms. So, this is a big mess. And just wait to some of the pictures from these highways that are just jammed in huge traffic jams with accidents because of this dust storm.
Jeez. Well, I know you're going to be watching it for us, Bill, and we do appreciate you for that. Thank you, my friend. We also got a lot of action happening in Washington as well. I'm talking political action, right? We're talking about weather action, now political action. We've got this live look at the Senate floor just in a couple minutes. The Senate is clearing a key vote to keep the government open after some Democrats, including Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, back to House Republican passed bill to fund the government through September. It's happening as the president is wrapping up this kind of campaign-like political speech for Justice Department employees, wanting to rally support for what he calls tough on crime agenda and reminding staffers in the world, really, of the kind of transformation that he wants to see at the Department of Justice. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Our predecessors turned this Department of Justice into the Department of Injustice. But I stand before you today to declare that those days are over, and they are never going to come back. They're never coming back.
You got to juxtapose kind of the extreme turnaround we've seen from the Department of Justice over just the last couple of months. Months ago, that president facing multiple criminal investigations by that very same agency. The president totally revamping the DOJ in his image less than 2 months into his new term, installing loyalists, firing perceived enemies while shutting down all-out investigations like the probe into the January 6th insurrection, of course. We have got team coverage on this as well. We've got NBC's Vaughn Hilliard, who's posted up near the White House. We want to start, though, on Capitol Hill with Sahil. Sahil, if you will, walk us through what's happening in the Senate right now when it comes to this vote and keeping the government open.
Hey, Yasmin. Well, just in the last few seconds, within the last minute or so, the Senate gavelled out this key vote on this House six-month bill to keep the government open, avert a shutdown at midnight tonight. The vote was 62 to 38. 62 to 38, which means it has enough votes. It has the 60 votes it needs to break a filibuster. What comes next is 4 amendments, all of which are expected to fail. This is part of a time agreement that was negotiated, and then final passage of the bill needs a simple majority. This bill is headed to President Trump's desk. It is not what most Democrats wanted, But Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer cobbled together just enough votes to help Republicans break a filibuster. He argued that the worst possible option would be a government shutdown, even though Democrats strongly objected to many of the provisions in this bill. They noted they weren't at the table to negotiate it. This was negotiated and written between Speaker Johnson and the White House. And I'm going to name you the 10 Democrats who provided those crucial votes. Senators Cortez Masto, Durbin, Fetterman, Gillibrand, Hassan, King, Peters, Schatz, Schumer, and Shaheen. Several of them are in Schumer's leadership team. Several of them are retiring at the end of session and don't have to face voters. In other words, don't have to deal with the immense amount of voter anger from Democrats who urge them to kill this bill.
You used the word anger, Sahil. I think it's an important word because obviously you've got a lot of Democrats that are certainly angry with Chuck Schumer right about now and supporting not only Republicans, but ultimately the president in getting this bill across the finish line, not calling for him essentially to step aside. How serious are these efforts this hour?
I think we're going to find out. We don't know how serious they are in the Senate in particular, because there are at least some Democrats who were in the vote no, hope yes category. They didn't want to shut down, but they also didn't want to be on record supporting this bill that a lot of their base and a lot of voters despise and wanted them to kill. So the question is, does that immense amount of anger that we've seen directed at Chuck Schumer from House Democrats, from outside prominent Democrats, and from liberal activists, does that convert to anger within the Senate of Democratic senators as well? Because this is their decision whether to keep Schumer as their leader. Suffice it to say, this is the worst position I've seen Chuck Schumer in his 8 years at the helm of the Senate Democratic Conference.
So Vaughn, while this is all happening, I want to talk DOJ as well, and the president kind of making his stump speech there. And it was a really political speech. I think it was something that we were akin to seeing on the campaign trail that we actually saw at the Department of Justice, which just a couple of months ago, as I mentioned earlier, was actually prosecuting, investigating then former President Donald Trump, now President Donald Trump. Walk us through why it seems the president and his team felt as if it was important for him to make this speech today.
It's remarkable to see the president of the United States inside of the Department of Justice being very direct about what he wants from these DOJ prosecutors, Yasmin. He asked effectively for them to go and root out what he says are crimes from the past. When it came to the 2020 election, saying there were bad people that should go to jail. When he was talking about multiple news organizations, including NBC News, he said that the work of the news organizations was illegal, and he urged the prosecutors and staff in the room to look into it. When it came to former administration officials, some who were a part of the investigations into him that led to 2 criminal indictments from the DOJ, but as well as attorneys on the outside who have sought to stop some of his political efforts in the past, he called for them to be investigated as well. And of course, we became accustomed to this through 2023 and 2024 on the campaign trail. But this isn't the campaign trail. This was inside of the Department of Justice, a place that we have historically seen presidents stay mostly away from, and at the bare minimum not make political statements or directly, audibly call on their prosecutors to go and seek investigations and prosecutions of their own political enemies.
Real quick here, Vaughn, because I know we don't have much time, but any indication as to his reception there? Because not all of them, obviously, are appointees of President Trump.
No, to our understanding, a great many of the career folks were not actually invited in, but in that room, you could have mistaken it for a political event because of the applause that happened throughout it. All
right, Vaughn Hilliard, thank you. Sahil Kapoor, thank you guys as well. Certainly a busy day in Washington. Also in the markets, wow, it has been dizzying. Showing big gains at the closing bell just about an hour ago, but it didn't come close to making up for a really bad week. I want you to look at all this green, right? The major index is closing way up. Actually, the best day of the year for the S&P and NASDAQ. The Dow up big as well, but still, amidst all this, had its worst week since 2023. And people are getting really... They aren't getting really good vibes about the economy with all the turmoil around the trade war, the tariffs. We have this new data showing consumer sentiment. It's down to some, its lowest level in just about 3 years. I want to bring in Brian Chung to talk more about all of this and try and make sense of this. I say the word dizzying because it is. It's up, it's down. Where is it going to land? I mean, I think as we started the day, we thought the market would end way down, and instead it ended a lot higher than we expected. So make sense of this for us if you can.
Yeah, well, I mean, the roller coaster of the market has really kind of matched the roller coaster of the headlines on tariffs. Although I want to point out that the very positive day that we had this Friday, where the S&P 500 ended the day up over 2%, is because of the government shutdown developments and kind of the optimism that, okay, we avoided kind of this scenario where we might have to worry next week about the government.
Sorry, I don't mean to jump in, but the government shutdown wasn't the only thing that was kind of driving the roller coaster ride of the markets. As you mentioned, it was the trade war, but yes, okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, the gains that we saw today, I think the reversal in the spill that we had seen basically week long, because it was red all week. We had the worst trading day of 2025 on Monday. Yes, you're right. I think the bigger story is still the tariff war. And in fact, now that we're here on this Friday, yes, we avoided the government shutdown, but we have no more clarity over the tariff war that, seems to be on and off on any given day or any given hour than we had, let's say, 2 weeks ago. So for that reason, investors are still very much saying, okay, yeah, this is a green day, but the volatility is still out there. If there's more tariff announcements by Truth Social, which appears to be the way that these actions are being are being done right now, then I think that volatility comes back again as soon as next week.
So tell me about the concern over consumer confidence, right? Especially with this tariff war that is ongoing, and especially when we're seeing kind of other markers of what may be to come, when we're seeing gold prices going up.
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw it just earlier when it came to the consumer confidence numbers, right? We flashed that on the screen, down 10% in the month of March compared to the month of February. This is the University of Michigan. They basically go around households and say, hey, how are you feeling about the economy? And it appears that consumers don't feel as optimistic. Yeah. And I think when you see gold prices rising up above 3,000 just for 1 ounce, I mean, we have seen gold prices soar as the volatility has come for equity markets and stocks. And I think that's because of some hunkering down, because gold is seen as kind of a recession-proof type of investment. Some people may be going into there, as we've heard that chatter earlier on this week, of the R word. If consumer confidence is going to crater the economy as 70% consumer activity, maybe that happens sometime down the line.
So is a rising gold prices always kind of an indicator, or historically has it been an indicator of a possible upcoming or impending recession?
It's not a direct link, but one interpretation of gold going up is that it's a bit of a bearish outlook among some investors, worried that at least equity prices might not be able to cover their losses. So you buy into gold because it hedges again. It's also seen as an inflation hedge at times, too. But I don't think that's necessarily the story with inflation. Much better than it was 3 years ago.
Brian Chung, thank you. Appreciate it. So also a lot of uncertainty at dozens of American college campuses, with the Trump administration threatening to take away federal funding from schools that don't fall in line with their demands over DEI and other issues as well. The Department of Education saying it's launching this civil rights investigation into over 50 schools, saying in a statement they want to make sure the universities are judging students according to merit and accomplishments, not prejudiced by the color of their skin. The list of schools which you're seeing here really run the gamut from the Ivy Leagues to state and vocational schools. Not on that list, but certainly a target of the Trump administration, Columbia University, which is reportedly facing a list of demands from the White House that they need to put in place immediately, or they could risk losing federal funding. Want to put up on the screen here a list of potential kind of sweeping changes for the university, putting the Middle East, South Asian, African Studies departments under so-called academic receivership, banning masks when they conceal someone's identity, reforming the admissions process, disciplining students that took over a building on Columbia's campus last year during sweeping protests. We told you yesterday the school has already taken action on that last one, announcing they were going to expel or suspend many students involved in that takeover. Columbia's campus has been in a state of unrest and unease for days now, after activist Mahmoud Khalil was arrested and sent to a detention facility in Louisiana, as the Trump administration moves to deport the permanent legal resident. And just last night, Homeland Security agents raided 2 residences at Columbia, possibly looking to take more immigration action, but the school said no one was ultimately arrested. A lot to take in there. NBC's Antonia Hilton standing by for us outside of Columbia University campus. I want to start, Antonia, if we can, with these kind of investigations, these wide-reaching investigations against dozens of universities. We've got big universities like Columbia, small universities as well. The Trump administration essentially looking to assert this control over these public and private institutions. What recourse could they feasibly have here?
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Well, look, Yasmin, recourse looks different for a public university than it does for a very well-funded private school like the one that I am standing in front of right now. So what you're going to see is a whole range of responses. Some of the universities are immediately going to take whatever changes or list of demands they receive and make adjustments, because they'll feel immediate financial pressure in order to continue their programs and to continue functioning. They'll feel that they need to take those steps. then schools that have, their massive slush funds and rainy day funds in the form of endowments, they may have other options. And certainly Columbia University is a school that may have those other kinds of options. Harvard is another school that has been targeted and under the microscope. And they are also, their administration, looking at their options here. But many of schools have already announced hiring freezes because of this and anticipation of this, even if they haven't yet received any notice like this one. And that's because the federal government has a very powerful carrot and stick, and that is funding for all kinds of things like medical research and programming, and entire departments and areas of scholarship can depend on this kind of thing. So expect to see a lot of changes and concern and fear in higher education for months to come now, yes.
It's interesting because other administrations before President Trump's have actually threatened this before, to pull federal funding from universities across the country. I believe President Obama did it as well for different purposes, and asking to prosecute sexual assault cases more handily at certain universities. In fact, though, it did not happen. I think one of the issues now that remain is they feel as if President Trump may actually pull the trigger here. So when you're looking at and talking about Columbia University, where you are right now, they have, I think, a $15 billion endowment. That's pretty huge, to say the least. Where are they on kind of giving in to these demands that are coming from the federal government?
Well, look, there's been a range of things here. So, for example, last night, the interim president here announced that DHS had to be allowed on campus in order to execute 2 signed search warrants. So in that sense, at times, they are compelled to cooperate, compelled to take the action that the Trump administration might want them to take. But then I just had a conversation, an on-background conversation with an administrator here at Columbia who described to me that you can expect in the coming days for this administration to change its tone. They feel that this administration has overplayed its hand by escalating things on them, not just the demand to address anti-Semitism on campus, with many administrators here, took as sincere and wanted to take action on. But they have seen the action of sending federal agents here to campus as essentially a kind of final straw. And now there are these protests that have been happening here throughout the day. Take a listen to a conversation I had with one woman, a resident of the area, a Jewish woman who came here to protest what's happened on campus.
The end of free speech. I mean, it's the McCarthy era 10 times over. Stop making scapegoats of anyone who doesn't believe in what you're doing, and using this notion of anti-Semitism to actually divide everyone.
So expect in the coming days, Yasmin, to hear more statements and additional information from Columbia and likely other schools that are very much in real time reassessing their relationship with the federal government right now.
And Tony Hilton Forrest, thank you for being there. We appreciate you. So as we've been on the air, we're hearing from the family of the man U.S. officials have described as a person of interest in the case of the college student who disappeared in the Dominican Republic, saying he has been detained under irregular conditions. Joshua Reeby is one of the last people known to have seen Sudiksha Konanki. This is an exclusive picture from inside his interview with Dominican authorities. Reeby's family says he had been subjected to extensive questioning without official translators or legal counsel until 2 days ago. We know Reeby has told investigators that the night Konanki, disappeared, a, quote, big wave came and hit them both while they were on the beach, sweeping them out to the sea. That's when he says he grabbed her and pulled her out of the water. He says once they finally reached the ground, he threw up because of all the water he had swallowed, and that he thought she went to grab her stuff, but then he never saw her again. Important to note here, a person of interest is not the same thing as a suspect. This is not a criminal investigation. Authorities in Loudoun County, Virginia, made that designation. That's where Konanki lives, but they have no actual jurisdiction over this case. George Solis is following this story for us and joining us now. What more, George, are we hearing from Reeby tonight and his lawyer?
Yeah, hey, Yasmin. So obviously this statement from the family here is very telling, given the fact that, as you mentioned, he is considered a person of interest in Loudoun County, but here in the Dominican Republic, they are saying he is strictly just a witness. We also note that he is still at the Dominican Republic. He has not left this resort. There have been some images of him walking around, some press that have tried to get questions out of him. He's acknowledged them, but he is still there. He has not left the DR at this time. So we hear in this statement that Joshua Reeby is deeply dismayed by her disappearance and is fully cooperating in this search. And in that statement, we're also seeing some very specific language here about what's going on kind of behind the scenes here. He has remained in his hotel room under police surveillance and has been repeatedly talking to the police since March 6th when he's been interrogated for long hours. The situation has raised serious concern within his family, which has led us to retain legal counsel to initiate legal actions ensuring his safety and the protection of his rights throughout the process. So again, you mentioned obviously some of that transcript between the authorities there in the DR and Reeby, and he's acknowledging that they were together, that they were in the water at one point, acknowledging that they were drinking. But there are also points in this transcript where he is refusing to answer any questions, saying, you know what, better I speak with my attorneys and not answer this. But in that part where he is answering any questions, and this part particular, he says, it took a long time to get her out. It was difficult. I was a lifeguard in a pool, not the ocean. I kept trying to get her to breathe, but that didn't allow me to breathe at the time. I swallowed a lot of water. I could have lost consciousness several times. And again, Yasmin, as you kind of noted there, at one point he says he was under the impression that she got her things and left, and then he comes to, and we've seen that video of him sort of stumbling back into the room. But needless to say, this investigation is still raising a lot of questions.
A lot of unanswered questions, to say the least. George Solis for us. Thank you. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the president saying in a Truth Social post today that there is a, quote, very good chance of Russia and Ukraine getting to a ceasefire. The Kremlin, too, saying it's cautiously optimistic about a deal as well. Remember, Russian President Putin said yesterday that he agrees in principle with the U.S.-led plan, but there's still some stuff that's got to be worked out. Number 2, former TV host and surgeon Dr. Mehmet Oz facing the Senate Finance Committee today over his nomination to lead the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. He would not commit to opposing cuts to Medicaid, and Dr. Oz emphasized his support for practitioners and giving people more tools to take control of their health. At number 3, the measles outbreak in West Texas and New Mexico climbing. Nearly 300 cases now. The outbreak in just those 2 states now surpassing the total number of infections in the entire country all of last year. 2 people have died in this current outbreak. All right, so tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic that we've been watching. And tonight, growing questions about how the massive layoffs at the Education Department this week could hamstring the federal government's efforts to help students with disabilities. In Connecticut, for instance, a state that spends a lot on special education in its public schools, I met a recent graduate who says that school system failed her, leaving her severe learning disabilities largely untreated. And now she's suing. And we just want to warn you, we talk about some pretty sensitive stuff here, including suicide.
Alicia Ortiz is 19 years old, and she can't read or write.
Do you know what this word is? No.
She graduated from Hartford Public High School and was accepted to UConn, but she says the system failed her.
The school system that I grew up in really took my childhood and my teenager years.
When Alicia moved to Connecticut from Puerto Rico for first grade, she says she was already diagnosed with ADHD and had learning difficulties. She was put in a special education program, but now alleges in a new lawsuit that Hartford Public Schools didn't give her the resources she needed.
And I was ignored. You know, I'm a human being.
According to the suit, in 6th grade, evaluations showed her reading at a, quote, kindergarten or first grade level. And in high school, more testing revealed, quote, major deficiencies. Alicia says she pushed for more tests and support, as she had through the years, and now specifically for dyslexia, but claims not enough was done. Before graduation, she tested again with, quote, severe and very low scores, according to the suit.
I was floored. I don't really ever see scores that low. She's made no growth, basically since preschool. So the testing's been very consistent. She is profoundly dyslexic.
Alicia sought out Courtney Spencer, an educational attorney, to advocate on her behalf.
She called in, she explained she was about to graduate, she can't read or write, and could I help her learn to read?
People who are dyslexic can learn to read with the proper guidance and resources. My own son Azar is dyslexic, and I too had to navigate a different public school system to get him help. But it can take time, money, constant pushing of administrators, even a private neurological assessment, and dedicated teachers. He can read at his grade level now. But Alicia says she fell through the cracks. Her mother does not speak English. And Alicia tells us she visited the school repeatedly, urging staff to address her daughter's needs, to no avail. We were unable to speak directly with Alicia's mom. So are Alicia's struggles a singular case or part of a broader problem? Hartford Public High School is 71% Hispanic. Connecticut spends a lot on special ed compared to other states. But just last year, the Board of Education approved budget cuts to the district. And Spencer says those cuts hit special ed students hard.
Certainly, if you're poor and you don't speak English, it's impossible.
Nationally, only 30% of 8th graders are reading at a proficient level, according to government testing. Alicia's lawsuit takes on the Hartford Board of Ed, the city, and one of her special education teachers claiming negligence. Also alleging the defendants, quote, failed to take any effective action to protect and or save her, the plaintiff, from the ongoing bullying, harassment, and or neglect. The city and district saying they wouldn't comment on pending litigation, but the district also telling us, quote, we remain deeply committed to meeting the full range of needs our students bring with them when they enter our schools and helping them reach their full potential. The special ed teacher named in the suit didn't respond to our request for comment. Alicia says she attempted suicide twice, the last time just weeks before we met.
Do you know now it's not your fault?
I'm trying to understand that now. But when you spend your whole life believing that you're stupid and that your voice don't matter, it's very hard to acknowledge that, you know, to feel proud of yourself.
But against all odds, Alicia kept learning. In school, she would record all of her lessons, then take them home and give audio responses with the help of her computer. She used her phone when reading.
It's green and tangy.
Wow. It added hours to her home and schoolwork every day. She says she completed her college application with the help of technology as well. UConn didn't respond to our request for comment.
People are not going to hear me, you know, if I'm crying and complaining. You know, I got to do something about it.
And that's why you stuck it out.
Yeah, that's what I did. And I put the work in, and that's how my grades started reflecting everything, and I got people to notice.
Alicia hopes by filing this suit, no other child will have to suffer, so they can reach their full potential, like Alicia hopes to do someday.
And by the way, we're going to keep you updated on this story and the lawsuit and Alicia's progress. Sitting down with her in person, I literally could tell she has this incredible potential. Another goal that she has from filing this suit is empowering others who might be scared, too scared to speak out. Thank you to Alicia for sharing her story with us. In just a second, the fierce defense tonight from Wendy Williams, clapping back at the two people she says need to, in her words, get off my neck. And gators are no stranger to Florida, but this is not where you'd want to find one. We'll be right back. Wendy Williams taking aim at her guardianship and saying she doesn't have any cognitive issues. The former talk show host now telling her guardian and the judge who appointed her to, quote, get off my neck in a new incredibly rare phone interview earlier today on The View.
I want to get out of Guardian. It's been over 3 years, and you know what I'm saying? It's time for my money and my life to get back to status quo.
So Williams says she's been in assisted living for almost a year. Late last year, Williams' guardian filed court documents saying she's, quote, cognitively impaired and permanently incapacitated. In 2023, her team said she was diagnosed with aphasia and dementia. We should know NBC News reached out to Williams' legal guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, but we did not immediately hear back. Maya Eaglin has followed this story for us and joining us now. There is so much attention surrounding the story, and there has been for quite some time about where is Wendy was the first question, and then we found her and we found out where she was, and then what was actually going on with her, and now she's talking. What more are we learning tonight about her state?
So basically today, she was saying that she feels trapped. She feels like this living care facility that she's in does not allow her to see her friends or family, does not allow her to leave when she wants to. And she actually welcomed the financial guardian that she was given in 2022 when she had some issues with Wells Fargo, but had no idea that would kind of snowball into this full, all-controlling, as she describes it, conservatorship. We will note, I think, that the lawyer representing her guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, says that those claims are not true and has actually said that Wendy Williams is able to talk to her family when she wants to. She's able to leave when she wants to. Let's take another listen to some of that interview from today.
I am not permitted to do anything but stay on this floor the memory unit floor where the people are 90 and 80 and 70. Look, I'm 60, and I don't even know what a memory unit, why am I here? You know what I'm saying, where people don't remember anything. So I stay in the bedroom the majority of the time.
So Wendy Williams actually filed a petition to the New York judge to get out of this conservatorship. Yeah. It's going to take a bit of cognitive testing and some more medical testing to build up enough evidence for the judge to either change or keep this same structure.
So real quick here, because I know she did like an independent cognitive test herself, I think just a couple of days ago,
Yes.
but she has to go through the formal process here.
Correct.
Right?
And the judge is saying that's not enough. What she has to actually do is probably much more extensive medical testing for the judge to feel comfortable to make a new decision or keep it the same.
Maya Eglin, thank you. Appreciate it. So NBC covers hundreds of stories every day. And because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment that we call The Local. From our Western Bureau, a snow machine rider is alive. After falling nearly 60 feet through ice and snow, he fell into this glacial crevasse. It's like this big crack in glacier ice. Other snow machine riders in the area say they got him out using ropes and pulleys. They gave him warm water, took him to get checked out by troopers as well. All right, heading over to our Midwest Bureau. Scientists in Michigan saying they've spotted cougar cubs living in the wild there. Oh my gosh, so cute. For the first time in more than 100 years, they're seeing them. They think they're about 7 to 9 weeks old. Big cats got hunted out of existence there in the early 1900s, and now cougars are on the list of endangered mammals in the state. Then over in our Southern Bureau, a Florida couple get an unexpected guest in their home. Take a look at this. An alligator hanging out near their kitchen. Can you imagine? They say they think it busted through a screen door to get in. They called 911 and say wildlife officials came about an hour later to catch it. I would have went into my bedroom, locked the door, and waited until the officials got there before I emerged. All right, coming up, we're breaking down the birth of America's most notorious list and how it became a national obsession. We'll be right back. From bank robbers to famous serial killers to modern-day terrorists, the FBI's most wanted list has seen all kinds of bad guys and bad women as well. Today marks the 75th year of its legacy in documenting some of the world's most wanted fugitives. NBC's Ken Delanian takes a look at the history of the illustrious list that you don't want to find yourself on in tonight's breakdown.
This former Canadian Olympic snowboarder, now an accused drug kingpin, recently became the latest addition to an iconic list, the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives. Today is the 75th anniversary of this mother of all top 10 lists.
We're showing a series of the 10 most wanted men in the country, wanted by the FBI, born in Philadelphia, height 5 feet 5 inches.
The FBI's historian tells us the list stemmed from a conversation between the Bureau's original director, J. Edgar Hoover, and a reporter.
And he said, look, I'd really like to do a story on those people that you're hunting. Can you give me, some information about some of the most serious criminals that you're looking for? And we gave him a list of 10 and published it. It was popular, and a year later, we made it a program.
The most wanted list has featured all manner of bad actors, from al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden to serial killer Ted Bundy to Eric Rudolph, the Olympic Park bomber. The first entrant, Thomas James Holden, shot his wife and her 2 brothers. Willie Sutton, who said he robbed banks because that's where the money is, was the 10th person on the list. The first woman was Ruth Eisman Scheer, who kidnapped a millionaire's daughter.
We've had bank robbers, we've had violent criminals, we've had mafiosi, we've had terrorists, we've had child pornographers. And as times change, as our priorities change, as the criminal threats and the security threats that we face change, so too is the list.
FBI officials say the list has been an effective way to focus public attention on wanted bad guys, from the days when it hung in post offices to the internet era.
How effective is the publicity surrounding placement on the list? How effective has that been in helping catch some of these people?
Well, we look at it this way. We've put 535 people on the list to date. We have caught 93% of them. And of those, almost 200 of them have been caught from citizen tips.
Sometimes in the most random ways.
Oh, gosh, we've had at least 2 of are top tenors found because of tips from the FBI tour. You know, someone was visiting to see how the FBI works, saw the list and said, wait a minute, that's someone I think I know.
As for former Olympian Ryan Wedding, the FBI says they believe he's living in Mexico and should be considered armed and dangerous. He's been charged with ordering murders as part of a cocaine smuggling operation. The State Department is offering a $10 million reward for his capture, which FBI officials say is now more likely thanks to his inclusion on the 10 most wanted list.
And Ken Delanian is joining us now. It's fascinating, actually, to see kind of how that list came to be. And I know that there's been some changes over the years since it initially started. What are some of the kind of most recent changes to this list?
Sure, Yasmin. Well, look, I'm old enough to remember when this list hung in every American post office.
Yeah.
Apparently, they don't do that anymore. With the internet, they don't have to. So that's been the biggest change is modern communications. They can flood the zone with this list and publicize it everywhere. Another big change is the list is much more international than it was in the days of Willie Sutton. Right now on the list is a Bulgarian crypto scammer, a Haitian gang leader, and a Colombian drug lord, along with sort of run-of-the-mill American alleged murderers. So it's much more international in scope, and obviously we've had Osama bin Laden and other terrorists. That kind of thing didn't exist 50, 75 years ago. So there have been changes, but it's an institution that persists. It's an iconic, really part of the FBI brand, Yasmin.
Yeah, Ken Delanian for us. Thank you. Really great piece. Appreciate it. So from criminals to space, everybody, we're going to take it live to the Kennedy Space Center, where our Tom Costello has a front row view to take two of that NASA SpaceX rocket launch. Tom.
Yeah, 95% chance of a go, and that means we could see Butch and Sonny coming home next week. We're going to come live from here when we come back.
In just over an hour from now, we're going to see take two of a NASA and SpaceX crewed launch that's going to relieve two astronauts that have been up at the International Space Station for the last 9 months when they were only meant to be there for a week. You're taking a live look at the Kennedy Space Center where it's all going to go down. A new crew for 4 astronauts are expected to take off from there and head out to the ISS to swap places with Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams and 2 other astronauts who are also on a mission up there. This might sound familiar because we covered this exact same thing last week on Wednesday. Then with under an hour until liftoff, the whole thing got scrubbed because of issues with the launch pad, delaying a mission that has been highly awaited. Remember, Wilmore and Williams, they went up on the first crewed test flight of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft last June. They were only supposed to be up there for a week, but ended up staying a lot longer because of some of the issues with the Starliner. So NASA decided to bring the capsule back with nobody on board. Tom Costello is joining us now from Kennedy Space Center with, once again, the best assignment in the biz on what looks like a beautiful day and a perfect day for a launch, Tom.
Could not be better. It's about 80 degrees, blue skies, absolutely picture perfect. And NASA Mission Control just said 95% chance of go at 7:03 p.m. Eastern time this evening. And it is a big and important mission. But most importantly, they've solved the problem they had on Wednesday night when they had to scrub. That specifically was a problem with the hydraulic line feeding the clamp that holds the rocket to the ground erector set, if you will.
Yeah.
That clamp was not operating properly. They fixed that problem. As a result, they took yesterday off to fix the problem, and then also we had high winds here yesterday. So they're ready to go today, 7:03 p.m. They've really got to get off the ground today because we have bad weather, as you probably have heard, moving through the entire southern half of the country starting tomorrow and into the weekend. So today is going to be critical. And then they launch at 7:03 p.m. If all goes as planned, they will dock with the station in the very late hours of Saturday night Eastern time, and then actually open up the hatch into the station early in the morning on Sunday morning. So it's an important mission, but I think you absolutely characterized it properly. This is a normal crew rotation. This is not a rescue mission for Sonny and Butch. It is not a special mission. And Sonny and Butch will come back in their spaceship that's been docked there since September, right?
Wow.
But as you know, Sonny and Butch got pulled into a crew 9, and their normal 6-month rotation on the station. So now they're finally getting to come home, hopefully pretty soon.
So what's the timeline going to look like for the crew that is headed to the International Space Station? How long are they going to remain there? And when are we going to see the astronauts coming home?
Should be a normal 6-month crew rotation. So the astronauts going up. And by the way, what an all-star cast. I must tell you, take a minute this evening and look at the bios of Crew 10, and you will immediately feel like an underachiever. But then the idea is they go up on a 6-month mission.
Yeah.
Sonny and Butch hopefully are going to come down. Now, they would hopefully be able to leave the space station within 4 to 7 days and then splash down here off the coast of Florida. We don't yet know if it's going to be the Atlantic or if it's going to be in the Gulf. But we're thinking at this point probably Thursday, but that's very much kind of up in the air. And some of it depends on the weather here on Earth and what is going to be hospitable weather for them and for the ocean vessels that will be out there awaiting their return.
We're taking a look at the countdown on the upper right of your screen. Obviously, we're just a little bit more than an hour away from blastoff. What an incredible moment. Hopefully that will go down at the top of the 7 o'clock hour here, really, on the East Coast. And Tom Costello has the best seat in the house. Tom Costello, as always, we're thankful for you, my friend. All right, that's a wrap for this hour, everybody. I'm going to see you on Sunday. No, Hallie is going to see you on Sunday on Nightly News and back here Monday as well on NBC News Now. Coverage picks up right now. Hey, everybody, I'm Yasmin in for Hallie tonight, and right now we're starting in the south where out-of-control fires, mostly from out-of-control winds, are raging in Texas right now. Take a look at how strong these winds are, literally flipping this semi-truck over as it drives down a highway in Amarillo. Think how strong those winds need to be to do that. Blowing up so much dust, it's almost impossible to see that through the haze. Thousands have already lost power, and we now know the hazardous road conditions have caused 3 deadly accidents, according to officials. And check out this forest fire in North Texas, already burned through thousands of acres, forcing folks to evacuate. Our climate team tells us the last time northern Texas was under a fire risk like this was back in 2009. Other states like Missouri, Oklahoma, they're also facing possible big fires. This is all part of a monster storm system heading east with over 100 million people in the path this weekend. We're seeing winds up to 80 miles an hour, baseball-sized hail, and the threat of tornadoes. 40% of the country is in the eye of this thing. Our team is all over this. We got meteorologist Bill Karen standing by for us. I first, though, want to go to Adrian Broaddus, who's standing by for us. Kind of to give us a sense, Adrian, of what's actually happening on the ground there.
Authorities here and businesses and residents, quite frankly, are preparing. It is essentially the calm before the storm. The governor has already issued or declared a state of emergency, Governor Kehoe, that is, saying in part this declaration activates the state emergency operations plan here in St. Louis. They are trying to get ahead of this storm as they brace for multiple tornadoes overnight. And city leaders that we spoke with say they don't want anyone to take any chances. Take a listen.
We've been in the red zone since yesterday. You know, it's not often that we find ourselves at this level of risk. So I think that it's really important that people pay extra attention to that. We're used to having marginal risk, and we're definitely in a higher risk level with this particular storm system.
You know, when we talk about this storm, St. Louis is right in the bullseye of the threat. They are expecting not only tornadoes overnight, but those heavy thunderstorms with hail up to 3 inches has been predicted. Earlier today, we were out and about gathering for this story, and the wind was just whipping. It was so powerful, the lids on dumpsters blowing up at times while we were doing our interview. You can see it right there. And that is also a danger as things fly out of the dumpster. Items inside become projectiles. If it hits someone while they're driving, that could cause some serious problems. If your eyes aren't covered, that could be dangerous. City leaders warning people if for some reason you absolutely have to be outside right now, even ahead of the storm, wear some goggles or glasses. And they also talked about alerts. Here's the thing. Visually, as these tornadoes are expected to pop up overnight, you won't be able to see them. So make sure you have alerts turned on your cell phone, have a weather radio, and it's Friday night. If you don't have to work or don't have plans tomorrow, try to stay up at least until this system has passed. Local meteorologists here are saying if you can stay up beyond 10 p.m., that might be safer. Back to you.
Wow. Adrian brought us for us. Thank you. Appreciate it. Want to get over to Bill Cairns now. I mean, just watching that video over and over again, it's unbelievable to see that wind and how strong it can be to actually kind of turn over those huge kind of 18-wheelers, Bill. And then, of course, look, we were just talking to Tom Costello, right, who's at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, saying if this thing doesn't launch today, we know that weather is heading towards the East Coast. I mean, there's a lot of folks in the path of this thing.
Yeah, and that video is just incredible. It shows you why we have so many pileups out there and so many 18-wheelers that just got blown over. These winds were gusting up to 80 miles per hour. And if you notice with the dust, it just goes to almost zero visibility. It's almost like being in what we call a ground blizzard. I mean, I might as well be in dense fog. And you can see it on our satellite imagery here. All of this brown, and they call it a brownout. That's why all the police and all the first responders were saying that we just have zero visibility or one car length of visibility throughout the area. Still, numerous highways are closed throughout this region, and I have heard reports of at least 4 fatalities in those pileups and accidents, and I wouldn't be surprised that number is going to go up. So it's still extremely windy. The storm is centered over the top of Kansas. We have had gusts just recently to 46 in Lubbock. Earlier, we gusted to 74 in Oklahoma City. Tulsa had a gust in the mid-70s. There's a lot of damage just from, a lot of shingle damage, a lot of tree damage, even without the leaves on them yet. And the fires that have formed have been spreading rapidly. I've seen at least pictures of 2 homes that have been consumed by these brush fires, and there's dozens of them right now, and they're just out of control in these high winds, and probably won't be till tomorrow till they get a lot of them under control and the cooler temperatures come in. And we haven't even begun the severe weather portion of this. I mean, the tornado watch just has been issued till 11 o'clock, including the St. Louis area, Columbia, Springfield. That first line of storms is yet to start spinning. It's producing some wind damage. That's this line here that's heading up towards Cassville. This is Springfield, Missouri. This is Interstate 44. Here's Branson. A lot of people are familiar with that. These storms are going to begin spinning as they head towards St. Louis in the next couple hours, and then we'll start getting those tornado warnings. As of now, it looks like wind damage is the primary concern. And, Springfield, probably maybe about a half hour to an hour, and those storms will be rolling through your area. Later tonight, St. Louis around 11 p.m. Memphis, it looks like about midnight for you. Areas of Mississippi from about midnight to about 3 a.m. And if that's not bad enough, tomorrow it looks like the storms could be even stronger and worse. And this high risk, very rare, we only get a couple every year. And when we get a high risk like this, it means we know we are going to get life-threatening tornadoes in your area. They're going to happen. Unfortunately, they're going to hit towns. The last time we had some setup like this, we had over 100 tornadoes. It's just a possibility, an indication of what we get dealing with tomorrow. And then by Sunday, we'll get this mess on the East Coast. And as you mentioned with the launch, that's why we'd like to get that, everyone up into space later on in this hour, because by the time this storm gets to the East Coast, it'll be windy, it'll have bad weather, the waves out in the ocean too. So many facets with this. We already know this storm is deadly. I think the only question now is just how deadly will it be by the time the weekend's done.
Let's hope folks stay on high alert tonight as the storm is heading towards them. Bill Cairns for us. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we're looking at the markets showing big gains today at the closing bell, quite surprisingly to say the least, but it didn't come close to making up for a really bad week. I want to show you all this green, right? The major indexes closing way up. Actually, the best day of the year for the S&P and the NASDAQ. The Dow up as well, but still had its worst week since 2023. And people, they're not getting really good vibes about the economy with all the turmoil around the trade wars and the tariffs. We have this new data showing consumer sentiment is down to some its lowest level in just about 3 years or so. I want to bring in Brian Chung to talk more about this. So if you're at home, you're watching this, you're like, okay, I'm not a major investor. Why does this matter? What is this telling me, this kind of roller coaster ride that we're on right now?
Well, I mean, even if you're not a day trader, right? If you have a 401k and you unfortunately looked at your 401k, then you're probably going, what the heck is going on this week? Because we had one of the best days of the year today, and then we also had the worst day of the year on Monday. It's been a crazy week, and I do want to point out here, though, that even though we see green on the screen, the S&P 500, largely seen as the most broad-based measure of the stock market, up over 2% today, it didn't do enough to erase the spat of bad days that we had. For the month, the S&P 500 is still down, get this, 7.8%.
Wow.
So if you're looking at your portfolio and you've lost 7.8% just in 1 month, you're probably going, what is going on here? And I want to point out that the big story when it comes to the stock market is, of course, the tariff headlines. It's the uncertainty around tariffs that have been a big reason why investors have dumped stocks. Until that goes away, it seems the volatility is here.
So I know kind of one of the things that are coupled with the headlines that we've been seeing coming out of the markets is possible recession fears out there with this ongoing trade war. Obviously, consumer confidence is down as well. And then we're seeing now gold prices going up, right? So talk to us a little bit about the correlation there and what we're seeing when it comes to a potential recession happening or not.
Yeah, well, if you see stocks going down and you see gold prices going up, usually that's a sign of investors being a little bit more bearish. They're a little worried about what the near-term future is going to look like. Now,
and what does bearish mean?
So bearish means you're just not that, you're not anticipating a lot of economic growth and you're not anticipating stock values to go up. I want to point out we are not in a bear market. Bear market is categorized as when a stock market falls by 20%. The S&P 500 did enter correction territory yesterday. That's 10%. So a bear market is far worse than that, and we're not there yet.
Yeah.
But, to your point, this concern about a recession is the same thing that Wall Street is worried about, because when you look at what's been happening with these stock valuations, people are selling the stock because they're worried that economic activity might crater as a result of these tit-for-tat tariffs that the Trump administration is waging. And we're already seeing concerns of that blowing over into the consumer side of things because of that consumer sentiment reading that you just mentioned from the University of Michigan, showing a huge drop of 11% between February and March in terms of just the overall feel among the consumer. Why is that important? Because the consumer drives 70% of economic activity. If that goes, so does economic activity.
Next week's a new week?
It is, yeah. The last 2 weeks have been enough, I think. It's been tariff policy for years' worth.
Let's just get to the weekend.
Yeah,
Brian
exactly.
Chung, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, tonight, a lot of action going down in D.C. as well. You're getting a live look right now at the Senate where voting is happening on final passage. Actually, I should say passage has already happened about whether or not the government is going to shut down after some Democrats, including Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, crossed the aisle to help pass it. And across town, a campaign-like political speech from President Trump for Justice Department employees to rally support for what he calls his tough on crime agenda and remind staffers and the world of the transformation he wants to see in that department.
Our predecessors turned this Department of Justice into the Department of Injustice, but I stand before you today to declare that those days are over and they are never going to come back. They're never coming back.
So the DOJ visit, an extraordinary turnaround for President Trump, who just months ago was facing multiple criminal investigations by that very same agency. The president totally revamped the DOJ and his image less than 2 months into his new term, installing loyalists and firing perceived enemies while shutting down investigations like the probe into the January 6th insurrection. NBC's Vaughn Hilliard has posted up near the White House for us and joining us now. Let's talk about the vote in the Senate first. There's a lot of Democratic anger surrounding Chuck Schumer and 9 other Democrats who voted to help Republicans pass this funding bill. How deep could this kind of fracture become in this party?
We've known since the turn of the year, Yasmin, that the government funding would expire on this evening at midnight. And that is where some frustration from a great many Democrats has been focused at Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, who is supposed to be, theoretically, the one that is leading his caucus in terms of its messaging, its approach. And Chuck Schumer, up until last night, had indicated opposition to having this government spending bill, the CR, be passed. And so that is where you saw by a narrow margin, Democrats give enough votes to Republicans here. And you see, even more frustratingly for Democrats, President Trump being the one congratulating Chuck Schumer for joining with Republicans to get this through, and that it was a good deal for the American people on a social media post. And just a few moments ago, as he was boarding Air Force One to head down to Palm Beach, his Mar-a-Lago estate for the weekend. So suddenly it is the Republicans and the president that are trying to capitalize off of this division within the Democratic Party on whether they should have voted for this government spending bill or not.
I want to talk about the Trump speech as well at the DOJ, which seemed like a campaign speech. It seemed akin to something that we would have been hearing in October and September leading up to the November elections.
Yeah.
And the message that we were hearing from the president today, what did he tell employees of the Department of Justice? Who was actually in the room and what was the reception?
Right. We should be very clear in that the message that came from the president of the United States was very stark to the prosecutors and staff that were inside of that hall today. This is not normal. It is not typical for the president to come and deliver a speech at the DOJ. There's been longstanding tradition of having some separation from the political commentary or desires of the president and the execution of an attorney general and the prosecutors at the DOJ. But what we heard from him today was suggest that those prosecutors should investigate and take to jail individuals who are involved in the 2020 election, which he continues to claim was rigged. He also targeted news organizations, a litany of them, including NBC, and said that they should be investigated and because they have engaged in a illegal act. What that illegal act is, was not specific. And of course, then you heard him also suggest that there should be a cadre of other former government officials who should be investigated, that they acted criminally. Again, he provided no actual evidence or specific allegations, but the message was very clear in the Department of Justice what the President of the United States wants from them and what he expects to see here in the months and years ahead.
And then amidst all this, I know yesterday there was a pretty controversial repost from Elon Musk. And it was a post that stated, quote, Hitler did not murder millions. And there has been significant fallout from that. Walk us through it.
Right. He said that it was the public workers that were the ones that killed the millions, not Hitler. And that effect, you could make the suggestion without having Elon Musk comment further, would be the implying that it's government officials here in the United States who are the ones that are carrying the axe out of the bad acts, if you will, and essentially justifying the mass firings of tens of thousands of government workers. Of course, there is no correlation here between these 80 years of history and the acts that Hitler ordered those that were Nazis to carry out. So we'll have to wait to hear from Elon Musk further. But of course, it was the Anti-Defamation League that came out and spoke out against, in a statement, Elon Musk's assertion there. And it is a long string of now examples of Elon Musk in social media posts making statements that are not necessarily a fair or accurate descriptions of history.
Von Hilliard for us. Thank you. Appreciate it. So we've got a lot of uncertainty tonight on dozens of American college campuses, with the Trump administration threatening to take away federal funding from schools that don't fall in line with their demands over DEI and other issues. The Department of Education saying it's launching civil rights investigations into over 50 schools, saying in a statement they want to make sure the universities are judging students according to merit and accomplishment, not prejudged by the color of their skin. The list of schools, which you're seeing here, really run the gamut from the Ivy Leagues to state and vocational schools. Not on that list, but certainly a target of the Trump administration, Columbia University, which is reportedly facing a list of demands from the White House that they need to put in place, quote, immediately or risk losing federal funding. We told you yesterday, the school announced they were going to expel or suspend many students involved in the takeover of a building on campus last year. The unrest and the unease at the university in large part is due to the arrest of this man, activist Mahmoud Khalil. And we're getting a video just in from the ACLU of the moment he was taken into custody.
You're going to be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay, let's not. Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone, okay? He's not, I understand. He's not resisting. Like,
there's no use for this. Don't worry about it. You're going to have to come with us. Don't worry. I'm coming with you. No way.
Well, note it was the ACLU who blurred the faces of the immigration agents in that video. Khalil is a legal permanent resident of this country. Raising tensions further, just last night, Homeland Security agents raided 2 residences at Columbia, possibly looking to take more immigration action. But the school said no one was ultimately arrested. NBC's Antonia Hilton is joining us now from outside Columbia University. The arrest in that video and now these raids overnight, they're really impacting life on campus right now for all of the students attending that school. What are they telling you?
Well, you're exactly right, Yasmin. Students here have described terror, anxiety, and this feeling of being under a microscope from the federal government, but also unsure about the degree to which they can feel protected or supported by their administrators. And by the way, that's members of this community who may not even necessarily agree with all of the protests that have occurred on campus or agree with a student like Mahmoud Khalil. But they're concerned about the broader free speech implications, concerned about what it means if federal agents can come onto campus and search people's dorm rooms. That's quite a sort of, people have had a visceral reaction to that. And so what we saw today was a protest spill out onto the street here. Take a listen to a conversation that I had with one woman, a Jewish woman who's not a member of the Columbia community but lives nearby and wanted to come and take part.
The end of free speech. I mean, it's the McCarthy era 10 times over. Stop making scapegoats of anyone who doesn't believe in what you're doing, and using this notion of anti-Semitism to actually divide everyone.
And Yasmin, I had the opportunity to speak with an administrator on background here who told me that in the coming days, we should expect the university to take a different tone, that, you know, they were trying to work with the Trump administration and took a lot of their concerns in a sincere manner, but now feel that they are fully under attack and are going to change strategies in the coming days.
You take, Antonia, a look at the list of demands coming from the government here that Columbia is facing. You think about how protests have been a major part of university campuses historically for so long. First Amendment rights as well, a huge part of institutions like Columbia University and universities across this country. What are the implications of the demands they are making?
Well, according to civil rights, free speech experts, and to administrators here on this campus, the implications could mean a serious chilling effect on free speech and debate at a top academic institution known for fostering exactly that on its campus, for being proud of its activist history, for people of different backgrounds and belief systems being able to safely, although sometimes uncomfortably, disagree. And so what you see in that demand is everything from a potential mask ban to scrutiny and changes to academic programs and areas of study like Africana studies. And so that will change the way that faculty, staff here operate, the conversations, the texts they may feel comfortable introducing to their students. And it may stop students, from what we are hearing from members of the community here, from taking part in future protests or making their beliefs or feelings known about issues that come up on campus. So the effects could be very real. And some people say that they already feel those effects are actually here even before this demand letter came out, that there was this sort of feeling that this kind of thing was coming for them and that it was going to change campus life already, Yasmin.
Yeah.
Yasmin.
The changes could, I think, severely alter what college life has come to be known for throughout time, if in fact they're implemented. Antonia Hilton Forrest, thank you. Appreciate it. So as we've been on the air, we're hearing from the family of the man U.S. officials have described as a person of interest in the case of the college student who disappeared in the Dominican Republic, saying he has been detained under irregular conditions. Joshua Reeby is one of the last people known to have seen Sudiksha Konanki. This is an exclusive picture from inside his interview with the Dominican authorities. Reeby's family says he had been subjected to extensive questioning, as they put it, without official translators or legal counsel until 2 days ago. We know Reeby has told investigators that the night Konanki disappeared, a, quote, big wave, as he put it, had hit them both while they were on the beach, sweeping them out to the sea. That is when he says he grabbed Konanki and pulled her out of the water. He says once they finally reached the ground, he threw up because of all the water he had swallowed in the interim. And that he thought she went to grab her stuff, but then he never saw her again. Important note here, a person of interest is not the same thing as a suspect. This is not a criminal investigation. Authorities in Loudoun County, Virginia, made that designation. That's where Konanki lives, but they have no actual jurisdiction over the case. I want to bring in Jesse Kirsch, who's live for us in Punta Cana, to talk more about this. What more, Jesse, are we hearing from Reeby and his family tonight?
Yasmin, I want to start where you just finished there, talking about this characterization of a person of interest by some local U.S. authorities. We've asked Dominican authorities about this throughout the week, and what they say is they don't use the term person of interest in their country when they're investigating. They also have said that they don't consider anybody a suspect. But a short time ago, we got this statement from the parents of Joshua Reeby through attorneys, and it paints a different picture. His family's attorneys are saying that he has been detained in this country at times, saying, quote, he has remained in his hotel room under police surveillance and has been repeatedly taken to the police station since March 6th, where he has been interrogated for long hours. This situation has raised serious concern within his family, which has led us to retain legal counsel to initiate legal actions ensuring his safety and the protection of his rights throughout this process. The Attorney, this comes at the same time, Yasmin, as we have obtained a copy of a transcript of an interview he gave to investigators on Wednesday. We have translated that from Spanish into English, and part of that reads, "It took a long time to get her out. It was difficult. I was a lifeguard in a pool, not in the ocean. I kept trying to get her to breathe, but that didn't allow me to breathe all the time, and I swallowed a lot of water. I could have lost consciousness several times." And Yasmin, what you just mentioned there about him saying he then vomited all of the seawater, what he says unfolded was they were back at the shore, but they were still in knee-deep water. And he says he asked her if she was okay. He then started to vomit, so he did not hear her answer. And he says by the time he finished vomiting and looked up, he didn't see her, so he assumed that she had grabbed her stuff and gone back to the hotel. And here's one more thing to mention from that interview transcript. In the interview transcript, he is asked about when he learned that she went missing. And he says later that day, later on Thursday, March 6th, he was talking with his friend, and his friend informed him that this woman had never returned to her hotel room. He says he was surprised by that, and authorities asked him if he went to authorities or went to the hotel about what had unfolded with them in the overnight hours on the beach. And he, at that point, said he wasn't going to answer, with his attorney suggesting that he not do so, Yasmin.
Wow, unbelievable. You can only imagine what Kananki's parents are feeling right about now with so many still unanswered questions there. Jesse Kirsch for us in the Dominican Republic. Thank you. I appreciate it. Coming up, what we're learning about a measles exposure in a labor and delivery unit in a Texas hospital tonight. Plus, watch how Sacramento police found burglary suspects inside an attic. And we've got our eye on Kennedy Space Center because a new astronaut crew is set to take off for the space station in less than an hour. Just about 38 minutes or so. We're going to bring that to you live. We'll be right back. All right, a breaking update into us late today on the measles outbreak in Texas. Doctors in the labor and delivery section in one hospital in Lubbock say they're now giving babies as young as 3 days old special preventative therapy after realizing a woman in labor was infected with measles. I want to go right to Don Torres, who's standing by for us. Doc, this is really scary for if you have a newborn baby exposed to measles, it could be deadly, right? What does preventative therapy look like, and how worried are you?
And for the newborn babies, actually for everybody, very concerned, very worried. For the newborn babies, even more so, because they can't even get the vaccine until at the earliest 6 months, usually 12 months. And their immune system can't handle something like measles right now. And what happened here is a mother gave birth, and then a couple days later, they found out that she had measles. The measles could have been passed while she was giving birth. The whole time she's in the area, measles can hang in the air for 2 hours. So any other mothers or babies that went through there could be affected as well. So what they're doing, that preventative therapy, they cannot give them the vaccine. So what they're giving them is called IVIG. It's an immunoglobulin. It's antibodies that they're giving them to try and build up their immune system in the 3-day-old. That's kind of hard to do, and stave off as much as they can.
You've got about 300 folks now that have been confirmed to have measles, 2 of which have died in this area from the measles outbreak. Where does this kind of thing stand more broadly? Are we looking out kind of like a more wildfire outbreak of this thing when you have 300 people?
You know, if you look at it right now, if you look at it back from 2000 when it was eliminated and we barely got 100 cases a year that all came from people visiting outside the country and coming back in, we're now having natural measles coming from the country, people here spreading it to each other. Those cases are increasing. They're not decreasing at this point. So the concern is, can we get it under control? That's going to take a public health effort to get in there, vaccinate people that aren't vaccinated, quarantine people that are sick, and try and get it under control. Historically, that's what we've had to do, and that's contained it. But right now, because of the climate of anti-vaccinations and things like that, it's harder to do. That containment's going to be harder, but this thing can spread like wildfire.
Wow, really terrifying if you have a little baby. Definitely. Exactly. Dr. John Torres, thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it. All right, want to get you over those 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, Hamas saying it will release an American-Israeli hostage in the bodies of 4 who died in captivity. No word on when or what the group wants in return. The Israeli government claims Hamas is trying to sway talks underway in Qatar over the next stages of the ceasefire. Number two, the estate of actor Gene Hackman and his wife has filed a petition asking police not to release sensitive photos and videos from the couple's death. Their representative saying it's to protect the couple's privacy, especially since they lived a pretty private life off screen. Remember, investigators say Hackman died from heart failure a week after his wife passed from hantavirus. Number three, the FAA is shutting down part of the Black Hawk route used by the Black Hawk that crashed into a passenger jet in January. 67 people died in that accident, the deadliest in the country in more than a decade. It's part of a broader recalculation of those helicopter routes that federal officials are working through near Reagan National Airport, just outside of Washington. Number four, check out this video from Sacramento police using drones to search a building that just got robbed. You see there the two suspects hiding in a crawl space. Police arrested both on burglary charges. You're hiding there, you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's behind me? Uh-oh, I'm busted. Number five, the reindeer in Alaska is mysteriously sick after someone broke into his enclosure. The reindeer named Star is somewhat of a local celebrity there, appearing in parades, reality shows, and school field trips. Now he's dealing with pneumonia, having trouble digesting food, and rapidly losing weight. Star's owner says he's taken him to the vet every day since he started looking sick, but vets still aren't sure if he's going to be okay. Dr. John Torres is here. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to put you on the spot for that one. All right, in just a second, the fierce defense tonight from Wendy Williams, clapping back at the two people she says need to, in her words, get off my neck. Plus, a new look at the world's biggest iceberg, how fast scientists say it's melting later on in the global. And we're only around 30 minutes away from the big space launch. We're going to take you live to the Kennedy Space Center for the very latest. We'll be right back. Wendy Williams taking aim at her guardianship and saying she doesn't have any cognitive issues. The former talk show host now telling her guardian and the judge who appointed her to, quote, get off my neck in a new incredibly rare phone interview earlier today on The View.
I want to get out of Guardian. It's been over 3 years, and you know what I'm saying? It's time for my money and my life to get back to status quo.
So Wendy Williams is saying that she's been in assisted living for almost a year. Late last year, her guardian filed court documents saying she's, quote, cognitively impaired and permanently incapacitated. In 2023, her team said she was diagnosed with aphasia and dementia. We want to know, NBC News reached out to Williams' legal guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, but we did not immediately hear back. Maya Eaglin is following the story for us and joining us now. I can't help but think, of course, about the other kind of high-profile guardianship conservatorship case, Britney Spears, right? And kind of how long, Britney, as you said, and how kind of long that played out, right? And I'm wondering what kind of the path forward here looks like for Wendy.
Yeah, so for Britney, her conservatorship lasted 13 years.
Wow.
It's not an easy process. It's a long one, but Wendy Williams is on the journey to try and remove the guardianship. She filed a petition with a New York judge basically asking for the removal of this guardianship. That's going to take some additional cognitive testing. Wendy herself was able to do that independently, but the judge in this case will also probably recommend a bit more testing to be done. Today, Wendy Williams on The View said she's feeling a lot better. She said she's sober. She says she's feeling like she can get her life back. Here's a bit more of that interview from today.
I am not permitted to do anything but stay on this floor, the memory unit floor, where the people are 90 and 80 and 70. Look, I'm 60, and I don't even know what a memory unit. Why am I here? You know what I'm saying? Where people don't remember anything. So I stay in the bedroom the majority of the time.
I will tell you, Yasmin, if you look in the comments on social under some of these clips, there are a lot of people saying similar things that we saw with Britney, free Wendy. Other people a bit more suspicious about her mental state. But ultimately, it's going to be up to the judge to determine if there's enough evidence to change her conservatorship or not.
I'm sure more to come. Maya Eaglin for us. Thank you. Appreciate it. So NBC covers hundreds of international stories every day. And because it's tough to read, watch, or listen to all of them, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment that we call The Global. Beginning in the UK, British police saying they are charging the Russian captain of the container ship that crashed into a U.S. tanker earlier this week. The 59-year-old captain has been charged with gross negligence and manslaughter. He's in police custody and will appear in court tomorrow. Over to South Georgia, just outside Antarctica. From South Georgia, I should say, to just outside Antarctica. Take a look at this video of the world's largest iceberg. It's called A23A. It's 1 trillion tons of ice. and it is melting fast. Like, we're talking in months. Experts saying it could break up into smaller icebergs that may cause a problem for marine life and ships in the region. And then over to Canada. It's official. Mark Carney is the country's new prime minister, sworn in today to replace Justin Trudeau. Remember, Trudeau announced he'd be stepping down as party leader in January. All of it under the shadow of this tense, ongoing trade war and President Trump's, quote, 51st state taunts. But Carney's making one thing clear.
We will never, ever, in any way, shape, or form, be part of the United States.
He says he's going to meet with the president if he shows, quote, respect for Canadian sovereignty. All right, time is now, everybody. We're just a couple of minutes away. You see it there, right? 16 minutes and 40 seconds or so from hopefully seeing NASA and SpaceX's crewed launch. That's going to relieve 2 astronauts that have been up at the International Space Station for the last 9 months when they were only meant to be up there for about a week. You're taking a live look at the Kennedy Space Center where all the action is happening. A new crew of 4 astronauts are expected to take off from there and then head out to the International Space Station to swap places with Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams, and 2 other astronauts who are also on a mission up there. This might sound familiar, by the way, because we covered this exact same thing on Wednesday. Then with under an hour left until liftoff, the whole thing got scrubbed because of issues with the launch pad, delaying this mission that has been highly awaited. Remember Wilmore, Williams, they went up there, the first crewed test flight of Boeing Starliner spacecraft last June. They were only supposed to be up there for a week, but ended up staying a lot longer because of some issues with the Starliner. So NASA decided to bring the capsule back with nobody on board. We have got a whole team here to walk us through all of the details. Dr. Emily Rice is here with me in the studio. She's a professor of astrophysics at the City University of New York. Danny Olivas is a former NASA astronaut. Marissa Parra is live at the Kennedy Space Center. Tom Costello is going to join us as well when he gets up and running. Marissa, if you will, start us off. How are things looking? I know it's a beautiful day for a space launch. Walk us through it.
Yeah, you can see behind me, the skies are looking really good. In fact, they are saying 95% weather favorability today. The winds yesterday were the reason why they didn't even bother to attempt to launch. But also, of course, most importantly, they really needed to take a closer look at the hydraulic system. This was the reason why on Wednesday we saw that countdown clock stop at T-minus 43 minutes. And so those teams, those engineers, all of them looking on Wednesday night through Thursday, making sure they flushed out the valves. And they said that they think they addressed the problem. They think it was a pocket of error that was causing the troubles. And so now things are looking good, Yasmin. I can tell you right now, we've heard at T-minus 35 minutes, we heard the call for propellant loading. So far, things are on track here. We know, according to this schedule that I have right here, things are looking good. We're still looking good at T-minus 14 minutes. So hopefully, T-minus 14 minutes, we'll see Crew 10 on their way to the ISS, Yasmin.
Danny, I want to talk about the crew that's going up, and then we'll talk later about the crew that's coming back. But, you know, you're a veteran of 2 space flights. Hello, my gosh, accomplished much. But what's happening right at this moment, right? You've got about 14 minutes or so to lift off. Walk me through what's going through the minds of these astronauts as they prepare to go to space for a few months. What's kind of the mechanics of what's happening as well to prepare them to leave?
Sure. Well, as you get into the fine count, getting right before launch, I mean, there's a definite choreography going on. They're verifying that the ship is ready to fly. They're verifying, as you saw before, you know, all the ground support equipment's, you know, ready to support the launch. The crew's on board right now. They're following the procedures. They're basically, you know, glued in, zeroed in on the next set of steps that they need to do because, you know, once you light that candle, you know, it's go time. So they're getting ready for that moment, and it's just right around the corner.
Emily, what is this kind of launch? What does it mean for the advancement of NASA's commercial crew program? This is pretty major.
Yeah, this is, so NASA's commercial crew is kind of what I think of as the next generation of spaceflight. Like you know, you can think of the Apollo generation, you can think of the Challenger generation. NASA's commercial crew is what's going to get us to the International Space Station for the next several years of operation, and it's going to get us to the moon. To have Artemis 2 launch and then have humans land on the moon with Artemis 3. I'm really looking forward to that.
Wow, that could be an unbelievable moment. I want to take a listen to NASA TV for just a moment as we're awaiting this launch, and then we'll come back.
Flight Control
control room at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston. Teams continue to work around the clock to monitor activities aboard the orbital outpost. Leading the teams inside the room is Flight Director T.J. Creamer. The team in Mission Control Houston, the team in Hawthorne, and the astronauts aboard the space station will track the autonomous docking of Dragon Endurance when they enter joint operations. This will happen when the spacecraft enters the approach.
Marissa, I want to bring you back into the conversation here as we're kind of talking about the timeline, right? Because we know there are two objectives of this mission. It is really kind of a crew swap, first and foremost, but it's also to bring Butch and Sunny back home. So walk us through the potential timeline here of when we could see Butch and Sunny landing back here on Earth.
Absolutely. And I can tell you right now what we just heard from NASA TV is exactly what we want to hear. Everything is going according to schedule. On Wednesday, we were already hearing and seeing issues with that hydraulic system. And so we all knew that there was the possibility of something. I can tell you right now, we're T-minus 11. We are still looking very good. Things are going and looking nominal, as they say in the space world. So T-minus 11 minutes. If we see Crew 10 launch indeed to the International Space Station, here's the timeline as it would follow. So then we would see Crew 10 get to the International Space Station tomorrow night. On Saturday night, there would be the docking. And then there's the docking ceremony that follows, the passing of the baton, if you will. And this is, this is a tradition. This is something we always see. You have to remember, we have two members that have never been to space before, zero gravity. It's not easy. And this is something we've heard a lot of astronauts talk about on NASA TV, the adjustments that have to happen, and the showing of the ropes, if you will. The International Space Station is not small. And so there's a lot of things they have to learn when they're up there. But then we will see the passing of the baton, and then Crew 9 with Butch and Sunny on board will be able to make the return back to Earth. The question is when? Well, that's also going to depend on weather. Weather is important, whether they're going up or back down to Earth from the International Space Station. So at earliest, Yasmin, they would start the undocking on Wednesday. But in terms of when they would actually come down, we know it's anywhere between 4 to 7 days later, weather depending. And of course, depending on whether they're splashing down in the Atlantic or the Gulf. All big questions, and we'll just have to see how the weather fares. But a lot of people eager to see them, especially those family members of Butch and Sunny. You've been waiting 9 long months, Yasmin.
Danny, again, you've been in this position, right? What type of psychological preparation does it take for these astronauts to make this journey to space?
Well, in 2007, I actually had the good fortune of actually being on the mission that brought Sunny down from her first extended stay duration on ISS. She'd been there for 6 months at the time, and at the time had the record for U.S. Women in space. So, I know that she's looking forward to coming down and, reuniting with her family just as much as Butch is. But, by the same token, NASA is a family. And so it's actually a very emotional departure. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if, you hear that emotion when they actually get ready to come home, because they have made the International Space Station home for the past, going on over 9 months now. And they've formed a bond with the entire crew on board. But they are looking forward to coming home, because obviously this is where everyone that they know and they love is here on the ground. And, we're wishing well for the entire crew.
I'm being told the pilot is speaking on NASA TV now. Let's take a listen.
Unwavering love and support. This mission is a testament of what humans can achieve when we work together. Go Crew 10.
Such great words from the crew. Again, and some cheering going on. You can see that on your screen.
It's incredible to think about what is going through the minds of those astronauts right now as they're set to take off to space in just about 8 minutes or so. And kind of the mission that's ahead, Emily, but also what they'll achieve while they're in the International Space Station. It's only a chosen few, Danny being one of them, that gets to actually make it to space, right? And then come back and tell us, hopefully, about it. And you think about the potential missions that are ahead for these astronauts, but also for astronauts in the future, right? You talked about the possibility of going to the moon, right?
Yeah.
And how amazing that could be and what we could learn about humanity.
Yeah, there's so many. I think the space exploration is like you said, the very chosen few get to do it. But in a sense, it's also every little kid wants to be an astronaut. Every little kid plays in space.
My kid wants to go to space camp.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So in that way, space exploration, like when there's astronauts on the space station, they are all of us. They are living out our dreams. And it's so wonderful when there's so many different nationalities represented, different backgrounds represented. I think we're over 100 women now who have gone into space, and we're going to add one more tonight. And so it's really exciting. Like the more people that we get in space, the more people that have these experiences. It's just a phenomenal thing that we can do as civilization, really.
As we're awaiting stage one launch of engine one, I should say, happening in just the next couple of seconds, I believe. Of course, the ramp up to the eventual launch, which is just about 7 minutes or so, as you're seeing the countdown clock in the upper right-hand screen of your corner. Danny, I also think about Butch and Sunny, who are coming back after a very long time away on the International Space Station, and what kind of the decompression, the potential decompression period will look like for them, and some potential pitfalls for them.
Well, I mean, so there's actually two components to it. The first one is the physiological component. They've been on orbit for 9 months, as any long duration crew member, will have experienced, and that'll include everything from, some muscle atrophy, some bone density loss. They try to mitigate those issues while they're on orbit, but it's not 100%. And then it's actually just getting used to the gravity again. Being, in microgravity environment, you learn to adjust the way that you move around, everything from calluses on the bottom of your feet to just the fact that you actually lose weight when you go into space. You come back and all that, you have a fluid shift down to your lower extremities, and now all of a sudden you're a lot lighter here on Earth, but you're also now a little bit dehydrated, so you have to rehydrate before you come home. There's all sorts of physiological things, and then there's the psychological effect of being on orbit, serving the mission, serving your country, serving all humankind. And then now you're going back to basically what you were doing before: a job, a dad, a mother, a spouse, an aunt and an uncle. And so there is an adjustment period. And, I'd say that, the Butch and Sunny are wonderful people. They're just tremendous astronauts. I have a tremendous amount of faith in what they can do and what they have done in the past. And I know that they're going to, represent the agency, proud when they come back.
Marissa, I know that we're seeing stage one engine chill happening now, which is essentially this liquid oxygen kind of going into the engines. Walk us through this stage of the launch.
Well, I can tell you right now, there's a lot of excitement from the astronauts. I mean, they were strapped in, ready to go on Wednesday night, and now we're just 4 minutes, T-minus 4 minutes and 55 seconds away from launch. And so in terms of the mission for those astronauts or all the crew members aboard Crew 10, I can tell you that there's not just the mission to keep the International Space Station float, if you will. I mean, we're talking about it takes a lot of work to keep it running and keep it in a good place for everyone that's aboard there that will continue to do so. But there's a lot of science experiments that they're going to continue to perform, some interesting ones. They're going to do research on Parkinson's and other medical research experiments on long-term extended stays in space. Yasmin.
Marissa Parra, thank you. Dr. Emily Rice, thank you. And Danny Olivas, thank you as well. We're T-minus 4 minutes or so until liftoff, everybody. Thanks for joining us. That's a wrap for this hour. We're going to turn it over now to Top Story for full live coverage of this space launch.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.